Happiness is beautiful, it's a kind of reality. Happiness is the highest good, happiness is free. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.
Welcome to the Happiness Show. This is George Ortega. I'm here with Claudia Basson, and we're here to talk about happiness, because happiness is, always has been, and always will be the point of it all. Today, we're going to be talking about empathy within an all-for-the-best happiness philosophy, and I've got to frame this. I want to take a minute to just frame this.
Absolutely.
Okay, the idea is like, you know, we've done a show on, you know, like how we should really consider things happen for the best, even though there's no proof, there's absolutely no, you know, proof of it at all, you know, but it just makes us feel good, right? So if we apply that principle to our lives across the board, then sometimes like things happen to our friends and we have to, you know, offer condolence or empathy. And so we might want to try to apply that principle to when we're, you know, offering that condolence, so that we help, you know, others to really overcome whatever it is they may have lost or enduring, you know, as quickly as possible, and just maintain or regain their happiness.
Yeah, and you can't rush it. I mean, there can't be a rush to regain happiness. It's a process, and everybody grieves differently. It may take a very long time. You know, you may start much later than someone else starts as well. You could deny for a little while that you're having some experience that's grieving, or, you know, just making you sad, and you just you're not even aware of it for a while, and then all of a sudden you become aware of it, and then that starts your process of getting through to the end. Right,
because the idea, you know, is that when, you know, like when sometimes bad things happen to us, and like we know for ourselves, it's usually not wise for us to say to ourselves, oh yeah, you know, pity me. I mean, you know, I just lost my apartment, you know, my friend just moved away, whatever, you know. And like we know that when we do that to ourselves, right, that doesn't feel good, you know.
You know, like, we say, oh,
self-pity.
You know, you want to lay around and eat ice cream for a few days,
Exactly.
and don't answer phone calls and mope.
Exactly.
Self-pity. Well, you could do some of that.
Some of that, but
okay. Just a little bit of that is good, because it helps you at least feel the feelings. If you can't run away from the feelings, even though they're hard feelings to feel.
Okay, but the idea is like when we do this with ourselves, right? It's like those feelings, like there's some of us, for example, who something bad will happen and they'll say, fine, you know, I want to be happy. This is like me. I mean, you know, whatever happens, I'm not going to lose my happiness.
Sure. That's a style. There's so many different styles. What's another style?
Well, but no, I want to stick with the positive. There are styles that like well, you know, well, yeah, time will heal and stuff. That, you know, but that's like waiting and stuff. I want to encourage people to be as active as possible in, you know, maintaining or regaining their happiness. So the idea is like, you know, if we have this principle that we're not going to pity ourselves, you know, something, you know, negative has happened, we're not going to say, oh, poor me and stuff, because that, you know, and that's kind of conventional wisdom, and say, in a way, people say, oh, don't pity yourself, you know, so that I'm not sure we should be applying that to other people. And so that the challenge is to kind of like empathize with them in a way that doesn't, you know, kind of like encourage them to continue to feel negative feelings, or doesn't, you know, tries to move them from the negative feeling back to more joyful, you know, positive feelings.
Okay, so how do you do that?
Okay, well, I'm
going to get you a tie tack.
Yeah, well, I've got one.
I'm going to get you one for Christmas.
I know. All right, how do we do this? I think we've got to think about why we do what we do with other people, okay, within a societal context, because a lot of times, you know, if we tell a person, you know, a person who's, let's say, you know, a friend has just moved away or something, I say, get over it. Just like,
the worst thing you could possibly say to someone.
Right. But the idea is,
unless it's toward the end and they just don't let it go.
Right. But the idea is to kind of like say in a way, all right, I understand, that you feel, because that's basically a person in that situation is feeling sadness, right?
Yes.
And sadness, according to the research, the literature, is an emotion that we feel because we perceive that we have lost something irrevocably, something that, and so like, the friend, and really I think what we're fearing or what we're feeling that we lost is our happiness. That person, that situation, it might be a job, a living situation, will to us signify something we feel we need to be happy, right?
Yeah.
Now, and that's the key, Claudia, because like in our culture we have so many thoughts or so many imaginings regarding what we feel, what we need to be happy, and so many of those are just not the case. We just kind of like think we absolutely need this. So basically it's kind of like trying to convey that message to the person that yes, it's really not, it appears not in your best interest that such and such happened, but if you believe that everything happens for the best, you will understand that not only is there not a reason to feel sad or negative about it, but actually there's reason for optimism and hope, because if in fact one believes that everything happens for the best, then that's really going to turn to something much better.
Eventually, yeah. But it's kind of hard for someone who's feeling that loss and that sadness to look at life that way. I mean, it's not always as simple also as people moving away or, a change of some situation in your life that you depend on for your happiness. And it might be something heavier, so you can't. So that wouldn't apply there, you're saying. You couldn't really apply it to a loss of a life.
That's hard to say, and there was about 15 years ago, we were celebrating my father's birthday in one of those Japanese restaurants where the chef cooks the food in front of you. Yeah, one of those. And like the chef was talking to us, and I'm not sure how accurate this is. This might have been in a certain region of Japan, may not have been in the entire Japan, but he said that like before World War II, the custom there was that when somebody was born, it was kind of like a celebration for an occasion for mourning, and when someone died, it was more of a celebration for rejoicing. And we can understand this because, like within our Judeo-Christian tradition, we firmly have the belief that when we die, it's getting better. No, not this. No.
How is it getting better?
No, because
that would be reincarnation.
No, but that's the thing. No. At least within the Judeo-Christian context, we've got this concept of heaven, and like if we're good, we're going to this place, And so that's the idea that
we're hanging out with God.
So exactly
couldn't be bad.
And as a matter of fact, within the Orthodox Jewish communities, these guys, they actually, in their closet somewhere, have the burial shroud that they're going to wear, because they cover them up, cover the head and stuff. Actually, and it's really, according to the literature, they say that, this life is kind of like an entryway into a grand banquet room that's like death and all. So, all right, so now that's what I'm trying to say is this idea isn't foreign to our culture, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to apply this. So, so from this example, we can see that we can even apply this with death, but we can certainly apply it with many other situations. For example, I lost my co-host, right?
Yes.
Lionel, he decided to want to do other things. Did I mope? Absolutely not. I believe that everything was going to happen for the best. I scrambled. I made some flyers and stuff. I put them up, and I got you. And I have a feeling, Lionel and my show was good, but I think our show is going to be better. And I think I think we're going to do a lot more. So it's just the idea of like. Because
that's a great example of something happening for the best, and that applies across the board for that type of a situation, don't you think?
Right. So. Yeah, so all right, you're a psychotherapist, Claudia, so
I know, stop reminding me.
Well, no, because I know there are traditional approaches, right, to psychotherapy, and there are now new approaches like FABA's well-being therapy that focus on the positive and all.
Right.
So now, even though you may not do this necessarily in your practice right now, it may not be conventional, how would you go about, like, getting someone to understand firstly getting them to perhaps believe that everything happens for the best. Even again, there's no proof, but it makes you feel better. You know.
I don't know. I don't think I'd use those words, frankly. But certainly, it's not my place to say that, and I have to be wherever the client is. So if the client is mourning and they're, very sad, and they need to connect with me around how sad they are and talk about it, then it's my job to engage that and sustain it. And if it becomes, of course, I guess that's the judgment call, when it starts to become when people get locked down and paralyzed and they just can't move forward, then you're just not addressing the issues that need to come up so that the person can then move to the next level. It's a beautiful process, and just about everybody goes through it. They may hang out at a stage a little longer. You were talking about someone who gets a little angry or gets upset. That's part of also, grieving and moving toward happiness. To get there, you have to go through these. You can't get there from here. You have to go through this certain path. You have to address just about everything, all the feelings that you have.
All right, well, we've got to talk about this. Claudia, I've done shows where, that is a way. It works, right? But there's kind of like an idea where, for example, just smiling, just, saying positive.
Absolutely. You mean all the neurochemistry stuff that you can
exactly,
do. Well, that's part of psychotherapy as well.
Right.
And that's part of cognitive behavioral therapy. You want to align someone with all of the, all of the helping situations, whether it's diet and nutrition and, balancing, parts of their life, a little exercise, a little, a relaxation, something that's more of a comprehensive approach. So yeah, so your neurochemistry has a lot to do with it.
Okay. I want to get back to the therapy because, I know that I guess the most conventional approach is, well, I'm guessing that it's somewhat non-directive, as you were saying, that you have to allow the person to kind of go through their emotions and just progress at their own pace and all. But I studied some psychotherapy a while back, and for example, there's some modalities that a long time ago there was they experimented with the primal scream or just rebirthing and stuff where the job of the client was to get themselves into, right.
Yeah.
So that's that, Claudia. You would define that as a very directive therapy, that the therapist was really saying to the patient, do this, or with the cognitive behavioral therapies where this is your homework, today for this week.
This is your task.
Right. So how possible do you think it would be to have to say to a client, well, my job is to help you feel better, and your job in life is to feel as good as possible, within the context of goodness, and how possible would it be to say to a client, well, your job, now for a week or two, I want you to really try to believe that everything happens for the best, and then I want you to apply that to, let's say, whatever situation is going on in their life right now.
Absolutely appropriate in some situations.
Cool. Now, how would that process work? How would you think, how do you think the average client might react to something like that?
Average client. I don't know. I don't know if there's an average client. I don't know. But so pick a scenario, maybe. That's might be better. Pick a situation.
All right. I think anxiety is so prevalent. Somebody comes into your office, I can't sleep, I'm worried about losing my job, just basic anxiety, worries. I mean, nothing actually even definite. It's just because anxiety by definition is really not about anything in specifics.
So what do you say? So what's the question?
So how would you move a person like that? How would you get the person to kind of accept the belief that everything happens for the best, even if, of course, there's
even
no
if
proof.
It's anxiety, you mean?
Well, yeah, because anxiety is about worry. Basically they're worrying. As Dr. Michael Fordyce demonstrated, worry, or as the research demonstrated, he reported this. Worry is the number one enemy of happiness. That's
the number one enemy.
Yeah, that's what one of his videos. Worry, the number one. So how would this kind of offer the best philosophy?
Well, that's an interesting point. I just want to jump on that further, because if you're worrying, you're not really sleeping well, or you're having difficulty sleeping or staying asleep, and you might wake up and stay up for a couple hours, then go back to sleep. And if you're not getting the proper rest, it's hard to be happy. It's hard to wake up feeling good and happy and focus on happiness.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, most of the happiness research started in the late 50s. That's where they began to study it comprehensively. But there was some research, I think, in the 20s or 30s, and that was one of their most, their strongest findings back then. One of their primary recommendations, that sleep is extremely important. And I think we're coming back to that. I think, like, there was a period where, for a few decades, medicine was saying, well, we really don't need as much sleep as we think we need sometimes, or that there was this trend like to do more, so some people would try to get by and less sleep. Now I think it's back to like 8, 9 hours is good.
Isn't it interesting? It always comes full circle. They always change their minds at some point. But you know these stats. I don't know the stats, but I think it's very high, the rate of sleeplessness in this country alone.
Oh yeah.
Very, very difficult.
Well, yeah, since 9/11,
just the tri-state area alone.
Exactly. The whatchamacallit, prescriptions for sleeping pills have doubled.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
A lot of prescriptions have doubled.
All right. So you got a guy comes in and he's anxious. He's got worries. He could tell you maybe he's losing. He's afraid of losing his job. He's afraid that just different things about that.
Well, I think you have to find out why they're at risk for losing their job. I mean, maybe it's a real worry, and he should be worried about losing his job. No? You have to find out what that worry is. That worry based on something real, or is this just a random anxiety that he's fixating on this, obsession about this job,
All right. Well, I mean, because
and also then B would be determining if this worry actually interferes with the way somebody functions every day. If it's interfering with their functioning and they're not able to take care of themselves, go to work, earn some money, buy some food, just food, shelter type of basic needs, then the anxiety is, pretty much out of control, and you have to address it.
Right, and in this case, because we're creating this scenario. So this guy's coming in. Actually, we don't know. He doesn't even know whether his fears are warranted.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because he just has this feeling. It's not. It's hard to say whether it's based in reality. But the thing is that it's just worrying him. I mean, he's worried about it when he's at work. He worries about it when he's at home. He can't sleep.
Yeah.
So I mean, how would you get a person like that to and for a lot of people, this is something new, to kind of experiment with or try to believe that everything happens for the best, and so that because of that...
That's what I keep struggling with. Everything happening for the best. I don't know.
Well, no, absolutely, and that's so key to this. That's so key to this, because for example, we haven't the slightest idea what happens when we die. I mean, who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe Jesus did. I don't know. Maybe there were a few other Jewish guys who died and supposedly came back. I don't know. But in general, we don't know, right? Most of us don't know. But
But there's hope, and there are fantasies about what it's like.
Oh no! Here, the thing is, all right, we don't know what's going to happen, but we've got a choice. I mean, we can either
yes, right,
believe that it's horrible. It's horrible for everyone. Who's going to believe that? I mean,
you're right. Maggots, and that's the end of it, and
right.
You go and you suffer. What was that film with Albert Brooks? What's his name?
Oh, something
so you actually
about
have to go back. Yeah. You have to go back and, take a look at what you did wrong and address it, with this corporate setting and this very administrative. It's horrifying to have to think that death would be like that.
Well, that's the thing, and the thing is, this is about the kind of
But don't we all believe it's just peaceful because our rest in peace is on our, and that's what.
Well, yes, and that's exactly what I'm getting to. It's the idea that there's no proof. There's no evidence. I mean, except for Jesus and a few other guys, who's it's kind of hearsay.
A couple of saints.
There's no videotape or anything. It's I mean, it'd be great if it was true, but basically for most of us, and that's why they call it belief.
Yes.
Belief. It's not assurance. We're not sure about this. It's belief. So the idea is that we can believe, and most of us do, because half of this country is very religious. Half of this country believes that there was an Adam and Eve and stuff, so we're a very religious country. So if we can believe you know, just because it feels better, just because it gives us peace of mind.
Okay, that's what you're really talking about.
Absolutely.
Changing your belief system.
Sure.
Absolutely. That's what works.
Yeah.
And, you know, and you can say, okay, I think you need to change your belief system. But they're going to go, huh? You know, right now I'm going through a box of tissues a day, and what are you talking about?
Well, I know.
This is where I am. But yes, that's the long-range goal.
Right.
Absolutely.
So what are you going to say to them? Like, you know, if I'm the client, I tell you, you know, well, you know, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I don't want to believe that. Why should I believe that? There's no proof of that. What are you going to tell me?
I wouldn't tell them that. They'd be really pissed off and never come back.
No. I'm the client, and I'm telling you that. I'm telling you.
You're
know,
coming in and you're just starting on a rampage like that?
You're suggesting. I hear what you're saying. No, you're suggesting to me that I, you know, try to believe that everything happens for the best. All happens for the best. And you're naturally trying to empathize with.
Oh, so you're trying to believe, as you are the client, you're trying to believe everything happens for the best.
No, I'm resisting.
And you're resisting, and right. I'm with you.
Well, no. I'm
always with the client.
All right, but is there a type of psychotherapy where, like, I mean, no, there is.
Yeah, it's called crackerjack box psychotherapy.
No, cognitive behavioral therapy. It's like
yes, cognitive behavioral therapy is a plan. Is cognition, thinking, doing, think, do.
Right, but the idea is, like, let's say a person has some kind of a cognition that isn't helpful, isn't logical, you know, and you know, because Ellis and what's the other guy, and Beck wrote about this, that, you know, there are these quote unquote irrational thoughts that we kind of, like, you know, think habitually, and in cognitive behavioral therapy, it's really the goal, the job of the therapist to try to, like, you know, as effectively, gently, you know, whatever is possible, to point them out to the client, right?
Yes.
So. All right, so, like, you're going to, like, and again, we've got to start with the premise that since there's no proof, it just feels better to believe that everything happens for the best, right? Mm-hmm. So what would you say to a client to help them believe that, even, you know, because they have a resistance?
I have an idea. Let's do a role play.
Okay.
You can be the client.
Okay.
Unless you want to swap.
No, absolutely.
You can be the therapist?
No, I'll be the client.
Because then I'll show you how difficult it is to say to someone, look, it happens all for the best. Because right. I can be a good client.
All right, Claudia, you be the client. I'll be the therapist. I'll show you how this is done. All right. Now, Claudia, listen. I realize that, you know, you might be worried about this thing, right? But I mean, the worry's not getting you anywhere, and if you just adopt this all for the best happiness philosophy, this idea that everything happens for the best.
So my dog got run over for the best.
Your dog just got run over, okay, and like, you know.
And I missed my dog.
Yes, you missed your dog, Claudia.
And I saw the whole thing happen.
Yes, but see, like, what happens is, like, first of all, heaven isn't, like, limited to just people. You know, there is a dog heaven too. Your dog's up there, like, frolicking with all his friends.
My dog is frolicking.
Well, yeah, dog's frolicking. I don't know what they do.
I want the drugs you're taking.
It's happening.
Because my dog's laying dead in the vet's office right now.
No, all right. So,
and I wouldn't be smiling, of course, if I was really in a role play, but it's funny to play this game.
Right. So the idea is, like, again, it's the key is to
reframe.
Yes.
Yes. And that's a good thing to do. It's an artful process, reframing. It's you know, you have to get to know someone, which is really important. You can't just use any frame. I mean, there are so many different frames to choose from if you're looking at reframing something. So you have to get a sense of what that person might connect in a healthy way to.
Right.
And then you use that frame. You know, it might be an old rickety kind of a traditional frame. It might be something that's silvery and shiny, but it has to be something that's attractive to the client so that they can see that reframe, and then they end up reframing it themselves. I mean, you're helping them to reframe it. You might say, let's reframe that a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's still, you know, I can't pull the rug out from under their mourning process if it's a lost pet, or if it's something much lighter like, you know, I don't know. I can't even think of something light in my field. What's light? Nobody comes in with light stuff. That would be fun.
They just failed the test.
Yeah, they just failed the test. Light. Hey, that's heavy to some adolescents, so they wouldn't be seeing me. But grades, like when report cards just came out a couple of weeks ago, and, you know, some of them they tell me the worst grade first. and they're devastated over it. And that works well because then I can say, okay, what about the other classes? And I always tell them, I'm not that grade oriented. If you're doing well, if you're retaining information and you're feeling okay, you'll pick up the grade next time. Don't worry about it. What's interfering? Then you go into what's interfering with that class. Maybe it's the teacher. Maybe there's some hot chick sitting next to them. Maybe there's some bad situation in class that they're responding negatively to. But let's not digress.
And no, we're not digressing, because you bring up a very good point, because there has to be a kind of a caveat here. I mean, even though we might want to believe that everything happens for the best, failing, you don't want to say that to a kid. Well, listen, you failed the test. Don't worry about it. It's for the best. I mean,
exactly. Because the parent would call me and say, "You're fired."
Right. So it's got to be applied. It's got to be applied with reason and wisdom. In other words, if there are things that we can do that we think are going to improve a situation, like in this case, studying harder or something, then absolutely, that's the thing to do. Okay. One last thing. There's this kind of cultural tradition that we've had for hundreds of years, thousands of years, I think, where certain things happen that we evaluate them as bad. And we've got about less than 2 minutes, so basically, how can we go about changing society to kind of not automatically just jump to the conclusion that something has happened, so that's got to be negative, and how do we get society to promote a healthier, more positive perspective?
Good question. Let's see. I don't know. It's a huge thing we have to accomplish.
Yeah, I think part of it has to do with therapy, with kind of work you do where. And shows like this, of course, where we're just presenting the idea. It's not an idea, just like talking one's problems out wasn't a very popular, accepted idea before, Freud and talking therapy and stuff. So through psychotherapy, the world learned that, hey, talk about one's problems, explore them, and that makes them better. So I think through therapy that might be a way. And I think the other thing is through shows like this, through movies, documentaries, I think maybe even through religion, the idea that in a lot of religions, we're taught to trust in God and stuff, and that's kind of the idea of, if there's a loving God, then really we don't have anything to worry about.
Yeah. I think sometimes people just get tired of being negative. And they just, especially post 9/11, I mean, people saying, "I'm traveling.
Good.
I want those planes up. I'm traveling. I'm going out. I'm going on vacation." People just wanted to just overcome it, and that was always uplifting to people. So I think when we're at the end of the line sometimes, like someone like Cindy Sheehan actually camping out in Texas and saying, I have to protest this war, that was a way to get people to start saying, yeah, we could do that. We could protest. We could say, no, we don't want this anymore.
Okay, Claudia, that's all we have time for. Thanks for watching. In the future, explore other topics designed to help us better enjoy life. This is George and Claudia saying, be good, think well, feel very happy. And I hope you'll join us again next time here on The Happiness Show.
Bye-bye.
Happiness is powerful. It's our underlying need. Happiness is why we live each day. Happiness is destiny. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.